1. The paradox of intelligence and love. Smart women are admired for their clarity of thought, their ambition, and their ability to solve complex problems. They succeed in their careers, they analyze life deeply, and they often see possibilities that others overlook. Yet paradoxically, many of these same women find themselves feeling unfulfilled in their romantic relationships. Why does intelligence, which brings so many advantages in other areas of life, so often become a burden in love? The answer lies not in weakness, but in the unique challenges that come with a sharp mind and a deep heart. 2. The burden of awareness. Intelligence brings awareness, and awareness can be heavy. A smart woman notices inconsistencies in her partner's words and actions. She senses emotional distance before it is spoken. She sees red flags others might ignore, and her analytical mind keeps replaying them. This constant awareness can prevent her from relaxing into the flow of a relationship. While others may float in blissful ignorance, she struggles with the inability to unknow what she sees. Philosophically, this reflects the old saying, ignorance is bliss. Knowledge is power, but in matters of the heart, knowledge can also be pain. 3. High standards and the fear of settling. Smart women often hold themselves to high standards in education, career, and personal growth. Naturally, they expect the same from a partner. But the reality is that emotional intelligence, ambition, and maturity are not evenly distributed in society. Many potential partners may not match her depth, her drive, or her worldview. This creates a painful dilemma: should she lower her standards and risk resentment, or hold her standards and risk loneliness? Psychologically, this is known as the scarcity paradox. The rarer a match becomes, the more pressure she feels to either compromise or stay alone. Both options carry emotional weight. 4. Independence and the desire for connection. Smart women are often deeply independent. They know how to take care of themselves financially, emotionally, and intellectually. Independence is empowering, but it also creates an invisible wall. Many men are conditioned to feel needed, to play the role of protector or provider. When faced with a woman who already has her life together, some men withdraw, feeling unnecessary. This leaves the smart woman in a strange position. She does not want a dimmer light, but she also craves deep connection. She longs for a partner who sees her independence not as a threat but as an invitation to grow together. Philosophically, this reflects the paradox of human life. We are both individuals and relational beings. To deny either side, independence or connection, creates imbalance. 5. Overthinking and emotional exhaustion. A sharp mind is both a gift and a curse in love. Smart women often overanalyze small details: a delayed text, a shift in tone, a forgotten promise. Their logical brain tries to decode meaning, to predict outcomes, to protect them from disappointment. But love does not follow logical rules. It is messy, irrational, full of paradoxes. The attempt to solve love like a puzzle often leaves smart women exhausted, trapped in cycles of doubt. Psychologically, this is called rumination. Instead of moving forward, the mind circles endlessly, creating anxiety instead of clarity. Philosophically, this reflects the struggle between reason and passion. As the philosopher Blaise Pascal said, the heart has its reasons which reason knows nothing of. 6. Emotional depth and the struggle for reciprocity. Smart women often carry not only intelligence but also emotional depth. They think deeply, feel deeply, and love deeply. But they also expect depth in return. When a partner offers only surface-level affection, casual words, or shallow gestures, she feels unseen. Her mind craves stimulating conversation, her heart craves soulful intimacy, and when these are missing, no amount of physical attraction or routine stability can satisfy her. This mismatch creates loneliness even within a relationship. She may be with someone, yet still feel profoundly alone. 7. The fear of outgrowing a partner. Another source of unhappiness lies in growth. Smart women rarely remain the same. They evolve, learn, and expand. But not every partner grows at the same pace. This creates a fear: what if I outgrow him? What if I leave him behind? She does not want to feel trapped in stagnation, yet she also fears that her personal growth will destabilize the relationship. Philosophically, this reflects the tension between stability and change. Love seeks security, but the human spirit seeks growth. To reconcile both is one of the hardest challenges of a relationship. 8. The misinterpretation of strength. Society often misinterprets the strength of smart women. Independence is seen as coldness, confidence as arrogance, clarity as harshness. This misinterpretation leaves many women misunderstood and unfairly judged. They long to be loved for their strength, yet also held in their softness. They long to be admired for their wisdom, yet also cherished for their vulnerability. When the world demands they be either strong or soft, Smart women feel torn. The truth, however, is that they are both, and they need a partner who can embrace the fullness of that duality. 9. The hidden loneliness. Perhaps the deepest reason smart women feel unhappy in relationships is the loneliness of not being fully met. They may have partners who adore them but cannot understand them, who enjoy their presence but cannot engage their depth. Loneliness in partnership is often more painful than loneliness alone. To lie beside someone who does not see your soul can be a heavier burden than solitude. This hidden loneliness explains why so many smart women feel conflicted, grateful to have love, yet aching for more than what they receive. 10. The clash between logic and emotion. One of the greatest challenges for smart women in relationships is the internal battle between logic and emotion. Her logical side analyzes, does this relationship make sense? Does this man align with my values? Can I see a future here? But her emotional side whispers, I feel safe here. I feel love. I want this connection. When logic and emotion align, she feels peace. But when they clash, she feels torn. Unlike some, she cannot simply ignore the conflict. Her mind refuses to rest until it finds resolution. This tension creates cycles of doubt. Should she stay or leave? Should she compromise or demand more? The lack of clarity itself becomes a source of unhappiness. Philosophically, this reflects the ancient conflict between logos and eros. Love is rarely purely logical, but the intelligent mind struggles to surrender fully to passion without explanation. 11. The weight of expectations. Smart women often carry not only their own expectations but also those imposed by society. She may be told she is too picky, too intimidating, or too independent. These labels create invisible pressure. She may begin to question herself, am I expecting too much? Am I the problem? Yet deep inside, she knows her desire for depth and equality is not unreasonable, it is human. The philosopher Nietzsche once wrote, the higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly. The problem is not that her standards are too high, but that many are unwilling to rise with her. 12. The struggle with vulnerability. Intelligence often develops as a shield. Smart women learn to rely on their minds to solve problems, to anticipate danger, to protect themselves. But in relationships, love requires vulnerability, an openness that logic cannot fully control. To open her heart means to risk pain. And because she is aware of the risks, because she can see the patterns others ignore, she hesitates. Psychology shows that vulnerability is the foundation of intimacy. Without it, a relationship may be safe but shallow. For a smart woman, the challenge is learning to let go of control, to trust the unknown, and to allow herself to be held without analyzing every risk. 13. The fear of losing identity. A smart woman values her individuality. She has passions, goals, and dreams outside of romance, but relationships often carry cultural expectations of compromise, sometimes too much compromise. She may fear that in order to keep love, she will have to sacrifice her independence, her ambitions, or her voice. This fear of losing identity creates resistance, making her hold back even when love feels real. Philosophically, this reflects the balance between I and we. True love does not erase individuality but allows it to flourish. Yet too many relationships demand conformity, leaving her feeling trapped rather than free. 14. Emotional misalignment with partners. Another source of unhappiness lies in emotional pace. A smart woman may process emotions quickly, seek resolution through communication, and desire deep conversations. Her partner, however, may avoid conflict, prefer distraction, or lack the language for emotional depth. This misalignment creates frustration. She feels she is pulling the relationship forward while he resists or lags behind. Psychology calls this the pursuer-distancer dynamic. One seeks closeness, the other avoids it, creating a painful cycle where both feel misunderstood. 15. When intelligence becomes isolation. Ironically, the very intelligence that empowers smart women can also isolate them. When she feels her partner cannot meet her depth, she may retreat inward, convincing herself that no one can understand me. This belief, while protective, becomes a prison. It builds walls that keep intimacy out. Philosophically, this is the danger of over-identifying with intellect. As Aristotle said, man is by nature a social being. Even the brightest mind longs for connection. To deny that longing is to deny part of her humanity. 16. The unspoken desire for equality. At the core of many struggles is the desire for equality, not just financial or intellectual, but emotional and spiritual. A smart woman does not want to lead all the time. She does not want to be the teacher, the guide, the planner, the problem solver. She longs for a partner who can walk beside her as an equal, someone strong enough to share the weight of life. When this equality is missing, She feels more like a caretaker than a lover. Over time, resentment builds, and unhappiness deepens. Philosophically, true love is a union of equals. Not sameness, but balance, where strengths complement and weaknesses are supported. 17. Paths toward fulfillment. Though the challenges are real, smart women are not doomed to unhappiness in love. There are paths forward, but they require both inner and outer work. 1. Embracing vulnerability to love is to risk, and no amount of intelligence can eliminate that risk. Choosing vulnerability is an act of courage, not weakness. 2. Redefining strength. Strength does not mean always leading or controlling. True strength is allowing oneself to be seen, even in moments of uncertainty. 3. Seeking emotional equals instead of lowering standards. The key is patience, waiting for those rare partners who value depth, conversation, and growth as much as she does. 4. Balancing logic with heart. Allowing the heart its place, without silencing the mind. This balance creates harmony, where reason guides but does not suffocate love. 5. Self-compassion. Recognizing that the struggle is not a flaw but a sign of depth. Feeling unhappy in shallow relationships is not failure, it is wisdom. 18. The beauty of the struggle. Ultimately, the unhappiness smart women feel in relationships is not a curse but a sign of their longing for something real. They are not satisfied with half-truths, shallow love, or empty gestures. They demand authenticity, equality, and growth, and this demand, while painful, is also beautiful. Philosophically, their struggle mirrors the human search for meaning. Love, like life, is not about comfort but about becoming. The dissatisfaction smart women feel is the very fire that pushes them toward higher love, deeper connection, and true partnership. 19. The fear of outgrowing their partner. One of the unspoken struggles smart women face in relationships is the constant fear of outgrowing the person they are with. Love, at its best, is about growth, but for someone with a restless and questioning mind, growth is not optional, it is inevitable. A smart woman reads, evolves, questions her own beliefs, changes perspectives, and reshapes her worldview constantly. But not every partner grows at the same pace. Some prefer stability, comfort, and routine. While there is nothing wrong with this, it creates a gap. The more she grows, the more she feels the gap widen. Conversations that once felt alive may become shallow. Activities that once brought joy may now feel repetitive. And what was once harmony starts to feel like dissonance. This fear, that her own natural evolution might leave her partner behind, quietly eats at her happiness. It creates guilt, confusion, and a longing for someone who can evolve with her, not resist her growth. 20. Emotional overload and overthinking. Another reason smart women feel unhappy is that they do not experience emotions lightly. Their intelligence often amplifies emotions instead of simplifying them. A disagreement is not just a disagreement, it becomes a symbol of deeper incompatibility. A small act of neglect is not just an oversight, it becomes evidence of a larger pattern. Her mind turns every event into a story, every story into a question, and every question into a test. While this depth makes her a powerful thinker, it also makes her vulnerable to emotional exhaustion. She doesn't just feel, she analyzes her feelings, then analyzes the analysis. This loop of overthinking can make her unhappy even in relationships that, on the surface, look perfectly fine. 21. The challenge of emotional reciprocity. Smart women give a lot. They are thoughtful, attentive, and often anticipate their partner's needs before they are spoken. But they expect reciprocity, not in material things, but in emotional and intellectual energy. The problem arises when their partners fail to give back in the same depth. Not because they don't care, but because they simply don't operate on the same emotional frequency. For her, love without reciprocity feels like imbalance. She pours from a full cup, only to find her own cup empty. Over time, this leads to frustration and sadness. She doesn't just want affection, she wants to feel seen, valued, and mirrored at her level of depth. 22. The inner conflict between logic and emotion. Smart women often live in a tug-of-war between their minds and their hearts. Their logic tells them one thing, while their emotions scream another. For example, logic may say, "He is a good man, stay with him." But emotion whispers, "Something feels missing." Logic may say, "Be patient, relationships take work." But emotion protests, "But I am starving for connection." This constant battle creates inner tension. Unlike some who can ignore these conflicts, smart women cannot. They dissect, evaluate, and struggle with the contradictions. The inability to reconcile head and heart leaves them unhappy, not because of their partner, but because of the unresolved chaos within. 23. The loneliness within togetherness. Perhaps the most painful truth is that smart women can feel lonely even while in a relationship. This loneliness is not caused by physical absence but by emotional and intellectual disconnection. She can share a bed, a home, and even a life with someone, and yet feel profoundly alone. Why? Because what she craves is not just presence, but connection. And when her inner world feels unseen, the silence of that absence is louder than solitude itself. It is the paradox of togetherness without intimacy, of companionship without communion. And this paradox creates one of the deepest forms of unhappiness. 24. The illusion of compatibility. At the beginning of many relationships, smart women often mistake surface compatibility for true alignment. A shared interest in books, music, or travel may feel like deep resonance, but over time she realizes that these are only external similarities. True compatibility requires something greater: shared values, emotional maturity, and a willingness to grow together. When this deeper alignment is missing, the relationship begins to feel shallow, no matter how good it looked from the outside. This discovery is painful, because smart women invest not just their time but their soul into relationships. When she realizes that what she thought was harmony is only surface-level compatibility, it feels like betrayal, not by her partner, but by her own hope. 25. The burden of emotional labor. Another hidden reason for unhappiness is the unbalanced distribution of emotional labor. Smart women often find themselves being the therapist in the relationship, the one who notices problems, brings them up, and tries to resolve them. She interprets silences, translates moods, and anticipates conflicts. She is both the partner and the problem solver. But over time, this becomes draining. She doesn't want to be the constant caretaker of emotional balance, she wants to be cared for too. When her partner does not meet her in this labor, she feels invisible. The relationship becomes work without rest, giving without receiving. 26. The trap of high expectations. Smart women often carry high expectations, not only for themselves but also for their relationships. They believe in deep love, meaningful conversation, mutual growth, and respect. While these expectations are noble, they sometimes collide with reality. Partners who are less introspective may interpret her needs as too much. They may see her desire for depth as nagging, her longing for growth as dissatisfaction. This misinterpretation leaves her feeling guilty for wanting what she wants, as if her standards are a flaw rather than a strength. But lowering those standards feels like betrayal of her own soul. So she lives in a painful space between what she craves and what she receives. 27. The silent resentment. Unhappiness in relationships for smart women is often silent, invisible even to those closest to them. She doesn't always explode or argue. Instead, she internalizes her pain. She may smile at dinner, laugh with friends, and appear fine, but inside she feels an ache that words cannot describe. This silent resentment grows not because she is weak, but because she does not want to hurt others with her truth. Yet, unspoken truth becomes a weight. And over time, it erodes both her joy and her love. 28. The desire for transcendence. More than anything, what makes a smart woman unhappy is when love feels ordinary. She longs for transcendence, a relationship that is not just about companionship but about becoming more fully alive. She dreams of a partner who can walk with her into the mysteries of existence, someone who can sit in silence and yet make that silence feel like a universe. She craves conversations that spark fire, intimacy that heals, and love that awakens. When love fails to touch these depths, she feels like she is starving at a table full of food. There is plenty to eat, but none of it nourishes her soul. 29. The pain of misunderstanding. One of the deepest wounds for smart women is the sense of being misunderstood. She speaks with precision, but her words are often misinterpreted. She brings nuance, but others hear criticism. She expresses depth, but it is received as complexity that feels exhausting. This gap between what she means and what is understood leaves her isolated. She longs to be truly heard, to have her inner world recognized, but instead she is often reduced to stereotypes: too serious, too demanding, too sensitive. Philosophically, this echoes the ancient problem of language. No matter how carefully we speak, words can never fully capture meaning. For a smart woman who thrives on clarity, this imperfection of communication creates endless frustration in love. The loneliness of the unmatched man. A smart woman's mind is always alive, analyzing, imagining, connecting ideas. But when she is with someone who cannot meet her on this level, she feels lonely even in conversation. It is not about intelligence measured in books or degrees. It is about curiosity, openness, and depth of thought. If her partner avoids questions, resists reflection, or prefers only the surface of life, she feels starved of intellectual intimacy. This form of loneliness is sharper than solitude, because solitude can be peaceful, but loneliness within a relationship is like silence inside a song. It feels wrong, incomplete, unfinished. The cycle of self-blame when unhappiness arises. Many smart women turn their sharp intellect inward. Instead of blaming their partner, they blame themselves. Am I expecting too much? Am I impossible to love? Am I sabotaging my own happiness? This self-questioning, while natural, can become toxic. She internalizes the failure of the relationship as her personal flaw, forgetting that love requires two equal souls, not one person endlessly adjusting to fit another's limitations. Psychologically, this self-blame often comes from early patterns of perfectionism, the belief that if she just works harder, thinks smarter, or gives more, she can fix everything. But love is not a project. And when she treats it as one, she burns out. The struggle with compromise. All relationships require compromise, but for smart women, compromise can feel like erasure. When she gives up parts of herself, her passions, her dreams, her intensity, she may gain peace in the short term but lose authenticity in the long term. Over time, this eroded authenticity becomes unhappiness. She realizes that every compromise that silences her true self is not just a concession, but a small betrayal. And too many betrayals of the self create resentment, even if she never voices it. The myth of independence. Smart women are often praised for being independent. Society admires their strength, their ability to thrive alone, their refusal to settle. But this independence can become a prison. Because she is capable of being alone, people assume she doesn't need deep partnership. Because she is strong, people forget she is also vulnerable. Because she appears complete, others assume she has no longing. Yet inside, she yearns for connection as deeply as anyone else, perhaps even more deeply, because her awareness makes her hunger sharper. The myth of independence hides her humanity, and this disconnect between appearance and truth becomes another source of unhappiness. The pressure of time. Another unspoken burden is time. Smart women often feel the weight of time more heavily, because they are constantly aware of what is passing and what is possible. If she spends years in a relationship that doesn't fulfill her, she feels not only heartbreak but also regret for the dreams delayed, the growth postponed, the years she cannot get back. This pressure makes her impatient with mediocrity. While others may say, "Give it time," she feels the urgency of life slipping away. Her unhappiness is sharpened by this awareness, not just of the relationship itself, but at the cost of staying where she doesn't belong. The hidden standard of depth. Perhaps the most profound reason for her unhappiness is that she cannot unsee what she has seen. Once a smart woman has tasted true connection, whether in a brief relationship, a conversation, or even a book, she cannot return to shallow love. Her soul remembers what depth feels like. This memory becomes her standard, and anything less feels unbearable. She may try to convince herself that normal love is enough, but her inner world refuses to settle. Philosophically, this is the curse of expanded consciousness. Once you have seen a wider horizon, you cannot return to the narrow view without feeling caged. The silent yearning for home. Beneath all the complexities, smart women yearn for one simple thing: to feel at home in love. Not a house, not possessions, not appearances, but a soul home. A place where she can rest her mind, lay down her questions, and simply be. This yearning is what makes her unhappiness so sharp. For she knows that love has the potential to be such a home, yet too often she finds herself wandering in relationships that feel like temporary shelters rather than sanctuary. And so, her heart continues to search, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom, the wisdom that tells her that true love is not ordinary, and that her soul deserves no less than extraordinary. 37. The gift hidden in the struggle. Though the unhappiness of smart women in relationships can feel heavy, it is also a gift. It is a sign of her unwillingness to accept less than what her soul deserves. Her restlessness is not a flaw, it is her compass. It points her away from half-truths and toward deeper love. Every disappointment refines her clarity. Every unfulfilled relationship teaches her what she cannot live without: respect, depth, reciprocity, and growth. Over time, this wisdom becomes her strength. Philosophically, her journey reflects the path of self-actualization described by Maslow. Only by refusing the shallow does she ascend toward the peak, where love is not just survival or comfort, but transcendence. And when she finally meets someone who sees her fully, her brilliance, her vulnerability, her contradictions, her happiness is unlike any other. Because it is not built on illusion, but on truth. Final reflection. Smart women are often unhappy in relationships not because they are impossible to love, but because they refuse to settle for love without depth. Their unhappiness is not their weakness, it is their wisdom. And in the end, This wisdom is the very thing that will lead them to the love they have always longed for, a love that does not dim their light, but shines with them.